In December 2025, Pakistan once again turned to the international community for financial survival. Facing deepening economic instability, shrinking foreign reserves, and mounting political pressure, the International Monetary Fund approved the release of $1.2 billion to the country. This payment was not a first. Since the previous year, Pakistan has already received $3.3 billion under IMF-supported programs. A clear signal that the crisis is not temporary, but structural. Despite repeated bailouts, the economy remains under strain. Inflation continues to erode purchasing power. Public confidence is fragile, and unrest is spreading from economic centers to politically sensitive regions. At the same time, mobile internet services were suspended in parts of Quetta and Balochistan as protests and security concerns intensified, highlighting how economic collapse and political instability are becoming increasingly intertwined. The IMF's December decision approved the release of $1.2 billion as part of an ongoing financial assistance program. This disbursement was contingent on Pakistan meeting a series of fiscal and policy benchmarks, many of them politically sensitive and socially painful. The funds were intended to stabilize foreign exchange reserves, reassure international markets, and prevent a balance of payments collapse. But even with this release, Pakistan's economic outlook remains uncertain. The fact that over $3.3 billion had already been disbursed since the previous year raises a critical question. Pakistan's economic crisis did not emerge overnight. It is the result of long-standing structural weaknesses compounded by global shocks. Key contributing factors include chronic trade deficits driven by heavy reliance on imports, particularly fuel and industrial inputs, a narrow tax base where a small segment of the population bears most of the fiscal burden, persistent energy shortages, raising costs for industry and households, and repeated cycles of political instability disrupting policy continuity. External shocks, including global inflation, rising interest rates, and currency pressures, intensified these vulnerabilities. But internal governance challenges turn stress into crisis. IMF assistance is never unconditional. In exchange for financial support, Pakistan agreed to a series of structural reforms aimed at restoring fiscal discipline and market confidence. These conditions include reducing energy subsidies, broadening the tax-based market-determined exchange rates, cuts to public spending, privatization or restructuring of state-owned enterprises. While these reforms are designed to stabilize the economy long-term, they often carry immediate social costs. Subsidy reductions raise fuel and electricity prices. Tax reforms face political resistance. Public sector cuts fuel unemployment concerns. The result is a tension between economic necessity and political feasibility. Economic reform requires political stability. Pakistan has struggled to maintain both simultaneously. Frequent changes in leadership, institutional tension, and polarized politics have disrupted reform momentum. Each government inherits the same fiscal challenges and leaves them unresolved. This cycle undermines investor confidence, weakens currency stability, and increases reliance on external financing. Economic fragility becomes political instability. Political instability deepens economic fragility. Behind every economic statistic are millions of lives. For ordinary Pakistanis, the crisis is felt daily in grocery prices, fuel costs, rent, and access to basic services. Inflation erodes wages, savings lose value, employment opportunities shrink, middle-class households feel squeezed, low-income families face hardship. IMF reforms may stabilize macroeconomic indicators, but their social impact is immediate and deeply personal. In December 2025, mobile internet services were suspended in parts of Quetta and Balochistan amid protests and deteriorating security conditions. Internet shutdowns reflect a broader pattern, where economic stress fuels unrest and unrest prompts state intervention. Balochistan, already facing long-standing grievances and underdevelopment, has been particularly vulnerable. Economic instability amplifies regional tensions, complicating governance and security planning. China plays a central role in Pakistan's economic future. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, China has invested heavily in infrastructure, energy, and transport projects, most notably through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. These investments promise long-term growth, but also raise concerns over debt sustainability. Balancing IMF conditions with Chinese financing obligations presents a strategic challenge. Pakistan must navigate between Western-led financial institutions and Chinese development partnerships, each with different expectations and implications. Bailouts provide breathing room, not solutions. Without deep structural reform, Pakistan risks remaining trapped in a cycle of crisis and assistance. Sustainable recovery requires export diversification, industrial competitiveness, energy reform, governance stability, human capital investment. The question is not whether Pakistan can survive this crisis, but whether it can emerge stronger. For deeper analysis on global economics, visit nexusinsight.org. Subscribe.